I welcome everyone to my channel. And again, stories from life. A novel that will change your life. Martha Shields' right pointing arrow, hope for happiness. Hank's face brightened slightly. Already good. Then I won't have to follow Travis's advice. Which one? Give you such a kick that you already flew over the Rocky Mountains. Claire's eyes widened. Hank, what are you talking about? Then why all this rush? Hank didn't hesitate. This guy has so much money that you were embarrassed to invite cowboy brothers? No, Hank, what are you? Then what is it? It was necessary, Jake replied. Hank's eyes narrowed. You said it yourself, she's not pregnant. Yes, but Claire was in such a state that there was not a moment to lose. If she does not get pregnant soon, she may never give birth at all. That's why we got married so quickly. Hank opened his eyes wide and turned to his sister. State? What happened to you? Claire glared at Jake. I should have warned him not to talk about the disease. Don't worry, Hank, it's not fatal. And it will go away as soon as I have a baby. Is it still the same problem you had back in college? So you've had it for a long time? Jake asked worriedly. And you didn't even take her to the doctor? Drove, Claire said. More precisely, Alex went with me. Dr. Freeman said that this disease could not be identified at such an early date. Are you sure? Hank asked incredulously. He was clearly confused. Claire took her brother's hand. It's not your fault, Hank. Hank hugged her. I love you, sister. And I want you to be happy. I know, Hank. You didn't ask the most important question, Jake said grimly, looking at them wolfishly. What? Hank asked. You didn't ask if I loved her. Claire's eyes went wide. Why is Jake bringing up this topic? Now he would have to lie to Hank, and she didn't want to. Hank shrugged. You already answered that question when you brought her here. So you know what she needs. Claire looked up at her brother in surprise, then back at Jake. Because of all these experiences, she did not even notice that her husband really took care of her comfort. Finally, he gave her something that was not worth the money, but was worth much more, and she did not even notice. Jake looked so alone and lost, standing alone, away from them. And Claire went to her husband. He pulled her into his arms and kissed the top of her head. Is Hank's remark true? Is Jake beginning to understand what love is? Or is he just good at pretending? Hank coughed. Well, I don't have any more questions. Now time will tell if we can get along together. Welcome to our family. He extended his hand to Jake. But Jake didn't take it. Not so fast, Eden. There is something else. Hank withdrew his hand. What else? You took command of Claire before you got off the plane. Only she's not your little sister anymore. She is a grown woman and my wife. So there is nothing to tell her. And no more comments about how she cooks. Hank is just joking, Claire said softly. Besides, I really am no cook. Jake pulled her closer to him. Doesn't matter. No one will joke with you anymore. Especially with me. Sizzix, Eden? Claire looked up at her husband. She was suddenly afraid of such a sharp attack in her defense. But why didn't she want to angrily exclaim that she could handle everything herself? What does she know how to take care of herself? Why did a chill run through her skin, and her heart thumped loudly? This is love? No, Lord, don't. Not now. Cannot love him until he loves her himself. Love without reciprocity will forever break her heart. Hank smiled and held out his hand to Jake again. She's yours, Anderson. Let's see if you can tame her. I'm not going to tame her, Jake replied, shaking his brother-in-law's hand forcefully. She is good and so. Claire couldn't stop her shaking. Either Jake really loves her, or he's already so into the game that he no longer distinguishes the game from real life. She would give anything to know the truth. Will Travis come tomorrow? Claire asked as she peeled carrots for dinner. Alex entrusted her with the most primitive work. He's coming from California, Alex said. He said he'd make a special detour and drop by to have dinner with us on Thanksgiving. Claire shook her head. Did he hint that he was going to leave the rodeo? After all, he is the same age as Jake, and there is no longer a living place on him. Do you remember how many fractures he had? He's always going to quit. But it doesn't take a few weeks for him to get blues and rush to the rodeo again. Here, very soon he should score enough points to compete in the final. And this year he got the right to team competitions. Claire snorted. Do you think he'll be satisfied with this? Alex dried her hands, grabbed a cup of coffee, and leaned against the table. Enough about Travis. Finally we were alone. Let's talk. Claire frowned and looked out the window to see if anyone was coming to distract Alex. But the men with the children left to ride about an hour ago. What time will our guys return? What do you think? Who cares? Stop getting off topic. Claire sighed. I thought Hank was the head inquisitor in our family. Alex laughed. Okay then, what do you want to know? All. From the very beginning. Where did you meet? For half an hour Claire talked non-stop. Alex told everything about their relationship that she could. She did not lie, but she tried to make sure that Alex did not guess that they were married after 3 days of dating. Finally Claire stopped talking, and Alex casually asked, Well, how is he in bed? Blood rushed into Claire's face. Alex. Oh, stop it. We are both married women. Claire looked back. Stop it. The kids left with Hank, Alex insisted. I don't really have anyone to compare with, but... Yes, good, okay, magnificent, inimitable, even when I don't want to. He makes me scream with pleasure. Are you satisfied? Alex giggled. Well done, guy. So you've been married for 3 weeks. Are you pregnant yet? I'm 3 days late. Alex's smile stretched to her ears. Does Jake know? Claire shook her head. Have you tried the test? Claire winced. Can you believe I haven't been to the store since we got married? Mr. and Mrs. Sanchez do all the housework, cleaning and cooking. I can't ask them to, and Jake keeps his eyes on me. Only at work he is not around, but there I am too busy. Looks like being rich makes you a little nervous, Alex chuckled. But today it's too late to go for the test, and tomorrow is a day off. Let's go to the city on Friday and buy. You want to be sure before you tell Jake, right? Claire nodded. He's a good guy, but how do you manage to do everything? After all, work takes a lot of time. Claire frowned. Yes, it is. I only hope that when I have a child, I will learn to combine work with family. I want to raise my baby myself, and not push him into the hands of servants. Kids take up 24 hours a day, sometimes more, Alex said. How does Jake feel about your work? He himself insisted that I work, so I think there is no problem here. He knows that I will never be a housewife. Although, of course, I would prefer that all my thoughts were only about him. What man doesn't want that? Alex chuckled. I have good news for Hank, too. I am pregnant again. Claire hugged her sister-in-law impulsively. Alex, this is so cool. You always wanted to have a big family. Yes, but 4 is enough for me. I already told Hank that it's time to start using protection. And he agreed? You can be sure. I put him before a choice. Either this, or not at all. Alex went to the stove and checked if the meat was ready. So my youngest will be the same age as your elder. Having a peer among cousins is good. Claire looked at her sister. Like Jake, Alex was an only child and ended up in an orphanage after her mother's death. But at least her mother loved her. You didn't say anything about Jake. What do you think of him? Alex smiled. He is exactly as I imagined. Yeah, just a copy of Hank, Claire angrily corrected. Strong-willed, always does what he wants. Yeah, I understand that you didn't want to marry someone like that, but, Claire, my dear, that's the only one you could fall in love with. Claire shook her head sharply. What do you mean? Alex gently patted her on the shoulder. I know you well. You tried to meet with weak men, whom you could twirl as you like, but they instantly bored you. And you never gave the strong one a chance beforehand. Jake had to be 10 times smarter and stronger than either of them to break your stubbornness. Claire lowered her eyes. I never thought about it. No, Dad. Sarah, in the saddle in front of her father, stubbornly pushed his hand away from the reins. Let me do it myself. Cricket, we have to catch up with JJ and Matt. A charming 3-year-old, more precisely, 3.5 years, as she loved to remind everyone. The girl pushed the horse with her foot. But she didn't even notice. Jake never ceased to be amazed at Hank's foresight. Going to ride with his daughter, Hank asked to give them an older and quieter horse. He knew his baby very well. Hank smiled broadly at Jake and looked up at the sky. She inherited this unthinkable stubbornness from her mother. Jake laughed. Maybe I should catch up with the guys and see how they are. They're fine, trust me. They'll be back soon. Yes, about your bulls. Another half an hour passed in discussing business at the ranch. The boys rode up to them once and immediately rushed back. Hank let them explore the new area as much as they wanted. Jake rode alongside a dismounted Hank, who let little Sarah drive the dew horse herself. In the end, she led them into a lowland, then went straight over the hill, not wanting to go around it. But Jake was too impressed with his brother-in-law to protest. In every word, in every gesture of Hank, an immense love for children was visible. And Jake unwittingly compared him to his father. The difference was enormous. No wonder Claire believes in true love. Jake diligently memorized everything that Hank's behavior related to children. He wanted to have a family like his brother-in-law's. He wanted to be a father like Hank. A few minutes later they climbed Black Horse Hill, the highest point in the area. Hank stopped the horse, ignoring his daughter's protests, and looked around. Then he glanced at his brother-in-law. Claire said this ranch was just another investment. To be continued. If you like the video, subscribe to my channel and press the bell to nothing don't miss.